I stood in front of the cracked mirror in my apartment, the morning light slanting in through the window, casting a warm yet unforgiving glow over my reflection. My brown hair was tangled and wild, a stark contrast to the dark, tailored suit I had picked out the night before. I was preparing to attend another one of those tedious corporate meetings at Everwood Technologies, but today felt different. Today, it felt like the universe had finally aligned, and I could almost sense the electric hum of destiny in the air. I drew in a deep breath and wondered if Emil would even recognize the woman I had become. Am I ready for this day? I mumbled to myself, my voice barely a whisper against the quiet hum of the city waking up outside. It had been 2 years since he walked out of my life, breaking my heart and shattering all my dreams like fragile glass. It was hard to shake off the memories of that night. I could still see his sharp features, that smug grin on his face as he announced, "Clara, I need more than what you can give me." The way he'd looked at me then, like I was the problem instead of the solution, still stung. The betrayal layered on top of the hurt, wrapping itself around my heart like an angry snake. After all this time, could I allow myself to feel anything other than anger for him? "You're stronger than this, Clara," I told myself firmly. My reflection seemed to nod back in agreement. Today was about reclaiming my life, my spirit, and yes, even my own happiness. I just needed to step into that boardroom with confidence. I slipped into my heels and took a final look in the mirror. "Time to show them who you really are," I said, determination laced into each syllable. Upon arriving at the office, the cool, polished lobby greeted me, filled with the scent of freshly brewed coffee mingling with expensive cologne. The walls were a stark white, gleaming, a stark contrast to everything that had happened in the last 2 years since Emil had left. I had entered that phase of life where revenge felt necessary, almost natural. I looked around, spotting a few familiar faces, eager eyes that seemed to miss my presence. "Clara, you're back." A cheerful voice rang out, and I turned to see Janet, a younger colleague, waving enthusiastically. "It's been ages. Everyone missed you." "It's good to be back, Janet," I responded, my voice steady and calm, betraying none of the turmoil simmering beneath the surface. I made my way to the conference room, my heart thrumming in my chest in time with my footsteps. This was my stage now, my opportunity to take control of my narrative. As I approached, I could hear voices wafting through the door, their discussions a jumbled mess of business jargon, but one voice cut through, sharper than the rest. "Emil, we just need a stronger client base in Everwood," he posited confidently, his tone dripping with that familiar arrogance. He always thought he knew better than everyone else, but today he would face the consequences of his past decisions. I pushed the door open, quiet enough to slip into the room without being noticed at first. Then, as I stepped fully inside, I saw him at the head of the table, his back straight, his dark hair neatly combed, just as I remembered. The air was thick with tension, and he turned ever so slightly, his eyes locking onto mine. For a moment, the world around us faded away, the chatter silencing like the pulling of a plug on a loud stereo. His expression turned from surprise to slight confusion, as if he were trying to place me in a puzzle he had long forgotten. "Clara," he finally managed, and I could see the flicker of recognition that crossed his face. "What are you doing here?" I felt a rush of adrenaline mix with the looming satisfaction of revenge bubbling beneath the surface. "I am here for the meeting, Emil," I replied, my voice steady, even though my heart raced. "You know, the one we were supposed to finalize the new project." He looked around, as if seeking validation from the others at the table. A few heads nodded slowly, still reeling from my unexpected entrance. My colleagues had never seen the two of us together since the bad break, and I could tell they were curious about the tension crackling in the air. The silence was shifted abruptly as Mr. Carter, the senior manager, cleared his throat. "Clara, welcome back. We were just discussing our strategy moving forward. Would you like to share your thoughts?" I could feel Emil's gaze burning into me, a mix of displeasure and confusion, like I was an unwanted ghost haunting his perfect little life. "Absolutely, Mr. Carter," I said, forcing a smile, my tone bright enough to illuminate the shadow of my past. "I have some ideas that could help us capitalize on recent market trends." My voice was strong and clear, drowning out the whispers of memories tied to Emil. As I spoke, diving deep into my research and the plans I had crafted meticulously over the last few weeks, I could see Emil shift, his posture losing its previous confidence. I reveled in his discomfort, drinking it in like water in a parched desert. "Clara, your research sounds great, but we really need to stick to our current strategy," Emil interjected, his voice laced with that familiar condescension that always grated on me. "We don't want to overreach." Just like that, he was back to being the same manipulative man I once loved. I clenched my fists under the table, the urge to snap back rising. "Overreach," I echoed, letting a small, incredulous laugh escape my lips. "You mean to tell me we are just supposed to sit on our hands and watch our competitors eat our market share? That is not an option, Emil. I refuse to be that stagnant." The room held its breath, tension rising higher than before. Emil's face turned a darker shade than I remembered, anger mixed with something else, perhaps embarrassment. "Clara, you have to understand," he began, but I cut him off, my voice rising with confidence. "What I understand, Emil, is that you left me unceremoniously 2 years ago, and I'm still standing here, stronger than ever." That struck a chord, and I could see realization dawn in his eyes. The atmosphere in the room shifted, a tangible twist of energy as I laid bare the truth beneath our confrontation. The other colleagues exchanged glances. A surprised whisper fluttered through the air, and for the first time, Emil looked unsure. "That was a long time ago," he muttered weakly, as if trying to deflect my words. But I pressed on, refusing to let him worm his way out. "Yes, it was a long time ago, but some scars remain, don't they?" I forced myself to smile, one that masqueraded as sweet but radiated steeliness underneath. "I was devastated when you left, but look at me now. Look at what I have built in your absence." I gestured toward the screen where the charts and figures I had prepared were projected, showcasing the bright future I envisioned. While you focused on your ego, I was working hard to redeem myself and prove my worth. I had their attention now, their rapt faces silently encouraging me as I pulled strength from their silent support. I turned back to Emil, my voice dropping low but clear. Today, I am not the girl you discarded. I'm a woman who has learned to rise from the ashes, and I will make sure this company thrives, not languishes. His eyes narrowed, frustration spilling across his features like a storm threatening to erupt. You are making a scene, Clara, he hissed, but I met his gaze, unflinching. No, Emil, I'm making my stand. The moment held like an elastic band drawn tight, each word I spoke vibrating with purpose. An unexpected warmth spread through me, a surge of vindication. I was reclaiming who I was, no longer the shadows of memories or the confines of past pain. I was Clara Jensen, and I would not be silenced, not today. The room remained silent, and I could feel my pulse quickening. Heart pounding to the rhythm of my own resurrection, I woke up the next morning. Sunlight streaming through the lace curtains and dancing across my faded blue comforter. But for me, it was not the promise of a new day that stirred me from my restless sleep. It was the burning desire for retribution. As I lay there, memories of how my life had been twisted and turned upside down flooded my mind, making my fists clench beneath the pillow. I sat up, swinging my legs over the side of the bed, feeling the cool, wooden floor beneath my feet. The chill shot through me like electricity, reminding me of my mission. I had armed myself with all the details I could muster the night before. Andy had betrayed me, and I would make him understand the depth of his mistakes. My stomach twisted with a mixture of anger and excitement as I remembered his smug grin when he thought he had gotten away with everything. I could almost hear his voice in my head, dripping with sarcasm. You just don't understand the adult world, Clara. I would show him exactly what an adult world looked like, my adult world, where I controlled the narrative. I got dressed quickly, yanking on a pair of dark jeans and an old, oversized sweater that hung loosely off my shoulders. It was my battle armor, a shield against the world that had conspired against me. As I slipped my worn sneakers on, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. Dark circles under my eyes betrayed some sleepless nights, but the fire in my gaze was unmistakable. I did not recognize the fierce woman staring back, but it felt right. Once I stepped outside, the crisp air filled my lungs, energizing me further. I needed to plan, to think about my next move. Everwood was small enough that I could calculate my steps carefully. My first destination was the coffee shop down the street, a place where the regulars mingled and gossip flowed like water. I could already imagine the smell of roasted coffee beans swirling around me. As I pushed open the heavy glass door, the little bell jingled overhead, and warmth enveloped me like a cozy hug. The interior was charmingly rustic, with weathered wood and mismatched chairs, inviting customers to sit and stay a while. My senses were overwhelmed by the rich aroma of brewing coffee and freshly baked pastries. I walked to the counter to order, my heart racing at the thought of who might be inside. Hey, Clara. The usual. Sarah, the barista with bright pink hair and a friendly smile, asked as she filled the coffee machine, her hands moving deftly. "Make it a double," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "What's the special occasion?" she probed, her curious eyes sparkling. "Just busy with work," I said, waving it off. I wasn't about to unpack my revenge plots over a cup of coffee. "Well, you look like you could use the boost," she winked, pouring a steaming cup and sliding it across the counter. "Thanks, Sarah." I grabbed the cup, the heat seeping into my palms, grounding me for the task ahead. I found a small table in the corner, pulling out my phone to check for messages and scrolling through my contacts. Silence from everyone, which was just as well. I didn't need the distraction of pity or sympathy right now. My eyes drifted back to the front of the shop, where a group of regulars sat laughing, no doubt discussing the latest town gossip, as was the Everwood way. It was then that I spotted him, Andy, leaning against the counter, his easy smile radiating confidence like a high school quarterback. He was dressed in a crisp white shirt, a blue blazer casually thrown over it, utterly self-assured. My stomach twisted in knots as I watched him speak animatedly with a couple of friends, completely oblivious to the storm brewing on the other side of the cafe. I should have felt anger, but it was more like a fizzing soda inside me bubbling, ready to explode, but in desperate need of direction. I took a deep breath, running scenarios in my mind. Approach him directly. Not yet. I needed more information, a stronger foundation for my counterattack. I leaned back in my chair, pretending to sip my coffee as I tuned my ears into their conversation. "Did you hear about the new project at work?" Andy tallied on, confidence dripping off him with every word. "I'm leading the team, and we are going to break records." "Of course you are," one of his friends chimed in, laughing. "Everyone knows Clara couldn't handle that level of responsibility." I felt like a dagger had been thrust through my heart. Anger twisted the knife deeper, reminding me of the humiliation he had brought into my life. I forced myself to sit still, though every fiber of my being screamed at the idea of confronting him right there. Instead, I grabbed a pen from my bag, flipped over an old napkin, and started jotting down notes. "Show him what he lost," I mumbled to myself, barely registering another snippet of their conversation. The more I listened, the more I learned about who was in charge now, about the expectations he had set for himself, and how oblivious he was to the havoc that awaited him. Suddenly, a familiar face appeared. Emma, my old friend from high school. I couldn't believe it. She swept through the door like a whirlwind, all energy and laughter. Her sandy blonde hair bounced as she waved at me, her smile infectious. "Clara, I was just about to call you. Can I join?" I waved her over, grateful for the distraction in my plan forming. "Of course, I was just enjoying some coffee. How have you been? Busy, but good. You would not believe the drama at the office. Last week, Karen spilled coffee on the new intern. It was chaos." Emma's eyes sparkled with mischief as she took a seat, her presence pushing aside some of the darker clouds hovering in my mind. "Sounds like your office could use a little less drama and a lot more coffee," I remarked, feigning a casual tone. "And how about you? What has been going on? Still working at that advertising firm?" "Yeah, still there." I tugged at my sweater, occupying my fingers to hide the tension that played through me. but I have some plans to shake things up a bit. Oh, do tell. Emma leaned in, her curiosity evident. If I told her, it would feel real. But was I ready to open that door? Just thinking about taking control of my life again, I replied, omitting the details. That sounds mysterious. Always a red flag if Clara is up to something, she teased, her laugh ringing like a bell. And always a green light to stay away from trouble, I countered, a smirk tugging at my lips. But trouble was exactly what I needed. I needed a plan. As our conversation wove smoother, I couldn't help but glance back toward Andy, who still wore that maddening grin. Maybe it was the adrenaline that got under my skin or the thrill of plotting revenge, but I felt a rush of clarity. What if I could make him realize what he has done? What if I could turn the tables? I thought, ideas intertwining like the steam rising from my coffee cup. What? Are you plotting something? Emma broke my thoughts, her eyes narrowing in on me. I shrugged, feeling a sense of sisterhood stirring. Just daydreaming. You know me, always thinking. Never a dull moment with you, Clara Jensen, she laughed again, but my heart raced with a new sense of determination. Our chat drifted, but my focus was locked in one place, shadowing Andy like a specter in the back of my mind. As Emma's laughter faded into mere background noise, I prepared myself for what would come next. Today was just the start. I would turn my pain into power, and he would eventually see just how strong I had become. Little did he know, the game of revenge had only just begun. I stood outside the big red barn, clenching the key to my brother's old truck in my hand. The wood was rough against my palm, and I could feel the weight of the plan simmering in my mind. It was hard to breathe, as if the thick air hung heavy with anticipation. A chill wind whipped through Everwood, rustling the leaves and sending a prickling sensation up my spine. I was about to step into the world that Jack Matthews, the man I hated more than anything, had built. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the yard, and there was something about that time of day that made everything feel quiet, like the world was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. Clara, you coming or not? Jard called from the truck, his voice echoing against the barn's worn-out walls. He was my closest ally in this insane plan, and his reckless enthusiasm gave me the push I needed. His messy dark hair caught the dying sun, golden highlights dancing in the strands. Yeah, I am, I said, taking a deep breath as I walked toward him. I toyed with the hem of my jacket, feeling the rough fabric, a protective barrier against what I was about to do. Jard glanced at me and raised an eyebrow. You okay? Just thinking, I mumbled, my heart racing as I imagined Jack's smug smile. I remembered the last evening I'd spent with him, celebrating his promotion at that crummy diner. He had laughed too loud and insisted I have a drink despite the bitter taste of betrayal that filled my mouth. I still can't believe he got that position after everything. Jard shifted in his seat, his expression turning serious. You're ready for this, Clara. Remember what he did. You're not just getting back at him, you're reclaiming your life. I nodded, though self-doubt clawed at my thoughts like a feral beast. I should not have to do this. Why should I even have to confront him? Why can't I just forget? But deep down, I knew that forgetting was not an option, not when so many threads of my life were tangled up in the hurt he had caused. Jard turned his keys in the ignition, and the truck roared to life, filling the air with a raucous sound that shattered the stillness. "Come on, let's do this." The determination in his voice was like a lifebuoy, pulling me off the edge of doubt. As we drove through the fading light, the landscape blurred past us. Fields stretched endlessly, the outlines of trees etched darker and darker against the deepening twilight. My mind raced with memories of Jack, each one a jagged piece of a larger puzzle filled with anger and sorrow. "Did you ever think he would go this far?" I asked, trying to focus. "No, but I always hated that guy," Jard replied, shaking his head. "He had a knack for making people feel small, like he was king, and everyone else were just pawns in his game." I chuckled darkly. "Yeah, well, he always thought he could play me." My throat felt thick with emotion, but I swallowed it down. This time, I'm the one holding the pieces. As the town came into view, I felt the weight of fear settle over me like a dark cloud. My heart hammered in my chest, the rhythm echoing in my ears. "Jard, what if he doesn't take me seriously? What if I mess this up?" "You won't mess it up. You have the plan, you have me, and let's be honest, he's probably not even expecting you," Jard said, glancing at me with an encouraging smile. "Besides, you are stronger than you think." The truck pulled up outside Jack's favorite bar, the Rusty Nail. The neon sign buzzed in the darkness, casting a sickly green glow that flickered in the dimming light. I felt a rush of warmth at the thought of stepping into that familiar place. My legs felt heavy as I climbed out, but also miraculously light at the same time. The scent of fried food wafted through the air, mixing with the tang of spilled beer and the warmth of late-night conversations. It was vibrant, almost intoxicating. "Remember, no violence," Jard cautioned as he walked around the truck. "Just confront him, lay everything out on the table. This is about getting him to face what he did." I thrust my chin up, taking in the bar's rickety sign. "No violence," I muttered, a mantra to soothe my nerves. Even the walls of this place swirled with memories, laughter mingling with the bittersweet taste of betrayal. I hadn't stepped foot inside since the night everything had unraveled. I could still hear Jack's mocking laugh, trying to impress his new company while diminishing my worth. "Let's do it," I said, more to convince myself than Jard. Entering the Rusty Nail felt like stepping back through time. The wooden floors creaked underfoot, and the faint scent of smoke clung to every inch of the bar like a ghost. I could see cheap wooden tables lined with mismatched chairs, each table filled with familiar faces connected by drinks and laughter. The jukebox crooned an old tune, a soundtrack to this place where I once felt safe. A shiver traveled down my spine as my eyes adjusted to the dim light. And then there he was, Jack, leaning against the bar, cup in hand, surrounded by a gaggle of friends. "Clara." Jard's whisper pulled my focus back to him, and I suddenly realized I had frozen in the doorway, staring at my brother's tormentor. The laughter around him faded slightly, the way a conversation does when your name is uttered unexpectedly. Jack's head turned, eyes locking onto mine, and for a brief moment, the air crackled with tension. Looks like someone decided to grace us with her presence, Jack sneered, his voice dripping with condescension. The laughter from his friends faded into an uncomfortable hush, and I could feel all eyes on me. I took a step forward, heart pounding, mind racing. Jack, we need to talk, I said, forcing my voice to stay steady as I approached him. The exhilaration of confrontation mingled with fear, creating a cocktail of adrenaline that fueled my resolve. Talk. With you? What an honor, he chuckled, leaning back with feigned nonchalance. The confidence he wore as a shield only served to enrage me. I don't have all night, Clara. What do you want? Remember how you thought you could push everyone around? I pressed on, my hands balling into fists. I'm not that easy to push around, Jack. Not anymore. Is that so? You were always the easy target, Clara, he shot back, his voice lowering like a threat. I could hear the echoes of laughter behind him, friends who were either laughing at my misery or just not caring enough to see it was real. In that moment, my resolve hardened, cutting through the fog of fear. I am not a target anymore, Jack, I replied confidently, stepping closer. You don't get to keep ruining lives just because you can. I'm confronting you because this ends tonight. His eyes twinkled with amusement, and the mockery twisted my stomach into a knot. What makes you think you have the power to confront me? You're just a forgotten ghost in my past. The smugness in his tone ignited a fire within me, a fierce need for him to understand the impact he had on my life. Maybe I am a ghost, but every ghost has unfinished business, I shot back. And yours is due. At that moment, I could feel the atmosphere in the bar shift, as if the world had pressed pause. Even Jard had taken a step back, giving me space. The very air tingled with anticipation, and I could see the self-assuredness falter in Jack's eyes. Finish what you started, Clara, he said, his voice lowering to a dangerous whisper. What do you really want? I took a deep breath, pulling together the pieces of my purpose. I want you to know how it feels to be discarded. I want you to see the damage you've done. Jack opened his mouth, but nothing came out. I could see others leaning closer, expressions ranging from shock to curiosity. There was an exhilaration in the tension, a thrill that empowered me as I went on. You think just because you walk around with your crown that no one can touch you. But I see you for who you really are, a coward hiding behind bravado and that stupid grin. Wow, feisty tonight, aren't we? Waving your fists around like an old cartoon, he scoffed, but the cockiness in his voice had begun to tremble. Every punch you threw, every underhanded remark you made shaped who I became. You thought I would fold like a deck of cards, but I am stronger than you'll ever know, I said, feeling relentless with each word. For the first time, doubt flashed across his face, but he quickly masked it. And what do you think you'll accomplish with all this screaming? Is this what you needed? Some attention? Attention, I echoed, the name of the game feeling strangely familiar. No, Jack, I want respect. Maybe if you paid attention to your actions instead of brushing them off, you wouldn't be standing here right now looking like a fool. You think this is about me? This is all on you, I said, my voice rising. In that moment, something within the room shifted. The small group had grown silent, watching our exchange like it was a scene from a movie. waiting for a punchline or the climax. I could see the realization settle into their expressions, confusion replaced with the stark reality of the situation unfolding in front of them. You really think you can change anything? You're just a woman scorned, Jack snapped, smirking again, but lacking the conviction. In your dreams, Jack, I said, feeling the satisfaction wash over me. I'm not scarred, I'm evolving. But you're still that same scared little boy hiding behind arrogance. The silence that followed weighed heavily, the air thick with tension as Jack searched for a retort. You're going to regret this, he finally managed. Standing my ground beneath the weight of his promise felt powerful. I doubt it. I'll be the one walking away from tonight knowing I'm not afraid of you anymore. With that, I turned to leave. I felt a rush of triumph and relief surge through me, like a cool breeze after a sweltering summer. I heard whispers behind me, the sound of judgment and curiosity swirling in the air. Jard followed closely behind, the hum of his presence grounding me. Did you feel that? You did it, Clara, he said as we emerged onto the cool night air. The stars twinkled above, little pinpricks of light against the darkness. I did I? I breathed, feeling the power of my own voice ringing in my ears. Now you know, you can stand up for yourself. This is just the beginning, he said, a wide grin on his face. Yeah, just the beginning, I echoed. I could not shake the feeling that this confrontation was monumental, a turning point. As we got into the truck, I caught one last glimpse of Jack standing there, his expression a mix of surprise and something resembling fear, a stark reminder that the past does not define who we can be in the future. As we drove away from the rusty nail, I felt lighter, freer. I had thrown off the shroud of darkness he had thrown over my life. I might not have finished my mission yet, but it was clear. I was just getting started. The sun hung low in the sky as I stood outside the Healy Group's sleek office building, its glass facade reflecting the last warm rays of daylight. My heart thumped heavily in my chest, a frantic drum warning me of my next steps. Today was the day. I could feel the weight of the months spent plotting, crying, and wrestling with my memories creaking like old floorboards beneath the pressure of my anticipation. I took a deep breath, filling my lungs with the scent of burnt coffee wafting from the corner cafe as I pushed open the massive glass door. The cool air conditioning enveloped me like a much-needed balm. The lobby was immaculate, polished marble beneath my feet glimmering, as if to whisper secrets to passers-by. I paused for a moment to collect my thoughts, each second stretching like a rubber band about to snap. I could see her, Jenna Hartwell, the woman who had devastated my life and shredded my heart into pieces more than a year ago. She stood near the elevators, her laughter slicing through the sterile air like a knife in butter. It was sickening to hear it again, that perfect chuckle laced with the kind of mockery that only she could manage. It ignited a flame in my core, a heat that blazed against the cool calm I desperately tried to maintain. I approached her, my heels clicking confidently against the floor. I could feel the nerves fluttering in my stomach, but I quelled them, channeling all my focus into the moment. Jenna, I called, my voice steady. She turned, and I saw the slight falter in her smile before she plastered it back on like a mask. "Oh, Clara," she said, feigning surprise. "What a nice surprise to see you here. Just getting ready for another day of executing deals. Is that what you call it?" I stepped closer, allowing my frustration to bubble just under the surface. "Seems more like executing lives to me." Her eyes narrowed, and I could practically see the gears turning in her mind, trying to recalibrate her effortless confidence. "You need to move on, hun," she said sweetly, wrapping her arms around herself in mock sympathy. "I mean, you can't keep blaming me for what happened." "No, you're right," I replied. "I'm done blaming you. It's time to settle accounts." Her smile faded as she registered the change in my tone, the steel behind my words catching her off guard. "What are you talking about?" I leaned closer, keeping my voice low and conspiratorial. "You think you got away with everything, don't you? But that's about to change. I've learned a thing or two since that day." "Clara, this isn't funny," she hissed, her facade crumbling for a moment. "I do not have time for your nonsense." But the control was slipping. She fidgeted with her watch, casting furtive glances towards the exits as if planning her escape. It was almost satisfying to see her skin pale under her perfect makeup, her grip shaky on the expensive purse slung over her shoulder. "Why don't we take this discussion somewhere more private?" I suggested, a casual smile dancing on my lips as I gestured toward the back of the lobby where the coffee shop was located. "Just like old times. Let's catch up." "Clara, I really can't," she replied, edging backward. "Sure you can," I said, stepping into her path to block her escape. "You owe me at least that much, don't you?" She hesitated for just a heartbeat, long enough for me to know that a part of her was curious about what I had planned, or perhaps frightened of what I could reveal. "Fine," she snapped finally. "But this isn't about reliving the past. Just so we're clear." I walked ahead, letting her follow, a quiet victory swelling inside me. The coffee shop was tucked in the corner, its cozy atmosphere a stark contrast to the sterile environment outside. Rich, roasted scents filled the air, wrapping around us like a warm hug as I ordered a steaming cup of black coffee. I could feel her eyes on me, observing my every move. I could almost hear the thoughts tumbling through her mind. "What are you planning?" I turned, finally meeting her gaze directly. "I remember the first time we had coffee together. You had that awful caramel macchiato with whipped cream. I don't know how you drank that disaster." She rolled her eyes. "Let's not go down memory lane." "I don't want to be here longer than I have to, of course," I said, feigning nonchalance. "Just thought I'd remind you of when we were friends." Jenna's brow furrowed slightly. "Clara, not friends anymore," I interrupted, my voice tight with the emotion I had bottled for so long. "Is that how cheap our memories are to you?" "Listen," she began, drawing a deep breath. "What happened between us was a long time ago. We were young, foolish. We made mistakes." "Your mistakes," I clarified. "You destroyed my life. You took everything from me. So forgive me if I find it hard to swallow your platitudes. I didn't mean for things to happen like that. It just happened." I spat as anger buzzed beneath my skin. "You didn't think twice before pushing me out of my job or selling me out to save your own skin. You didn't even care about the fallout." "Clara, please," she started, but I cut her off again. "Please what?" "Please forgive you." My voice was rising, heavy with every emotion I had suppressed since that fateful day. You think you can just apologize your way back into my life. You think saying sorry is enough to erase the debt. She shifted uncomfortably, her confident demeanor starting to wane. You want revenge, really? Is that what this is all about? My lips curled into a smirk, an unsettling exhilaration bubbling to the surface. Revenge. This isn't just revenge, this is justice. I need you to know what it feels like to lose everything, just like I did. Clara, you don't need to go this route. We have already been down this path. Her voice trembled slightly, betraying her bravado as she glanced around the shop, as if hoping for help to magically appear. Oh no, dear Jenna, we are just getting started. I leaned in closer, my voice low and seething with determination. You see, I've been planning something far more delightful than revenge. You will pay for what you did in the exact way you don't expect. It's going to be beautiful. What do you mean? Her face paled further, the terror visible in her dark eyes now. I stood back, aching to relish this moment a little longer, to let her sweat a bit. Let's just say I have crafted an intricate tapestry of your downfall. Before she could speak again, I turned toward the counter and called for my drink. The barista slid it across the counter, and as I took a sip, I let the warmth spread through my body. I was ready to embrace this chapter of my life, and I was ready for her to realize just how far down the rabbit hole we were both going to fall. So what's the plan? She whispered, her voice barely carrying over the clatter of the coffee shop. It's simple. I just need you to tell me everything you know. About the projects, the deals, the weakness, everything. You owe me this, and trust me, it will be worth it, I replied, my smile sharp enough to cut glass. And trust me, Jenna, this time I won't let you walk away. Her lips quivered as she fought for composure, and deep down, I reveled in the sight of her panic. The tables had turned, and I could feel the power shifting in my favor like a shadow lengthening as the sun dipped below the horizon. Already, the plan had begun to unfurl, and I was ready for the delicious taste of sweet revenge. I stood in the shadow of the old oak tree, its gnarled branches stretching toward the darkening sky like twisted fingers reaching for a long-lost hope. The wind whispered secrets through the rustling leaves, a promise of the storm that was about to break. I could feel my heart thumping in my chest as I rummaged through my memories, each one a step further into the abyss of revenge I had chosen. It had been months since I began setting my plans into motion, and now the final act loomed nearer. I could not afford to falter. I would not let myself fail. As I tightened my grip around the cold metal of the flash drive in my pocket, I couldn't help but think of Jason. He had been my best friend and had turned into my worst enemy. I could still picture his smug face as he had strolled into my life like he owned it, stealing my trust before robbing me of my dignity. You really thought you were better than me, Clara. You never stood a chance, he had sneered, his voice dripping with contempt as he laughed off our friendship as if it had been nothing more than a joke. I shook my head at the memory, my fingers digging into the smooth metal of the flash drive. I was prepared to take down everything he had built, his reputation, his career, and the perfect life he flaunted on social media. I had spent countless nights gathering evidence, piecing together his misdeeds and deceit, each discovery fueling the fire of my revenge. I never once questioned if he deserved it. The question was whether I had the strength to pull the trigger, metaphorically speaking, of course. Then I heard footsteps approaching. My heart raced as I spun around and caught sight of Mia, my childhood friend, with her long brown hair bouncing as she rushed towards me. "Clara, there you are," she called, her voice bright but laced with concern. "I've been looking everywhere for you." She stopped in front of me, catching her breath, and her blue eyes searched my face. "You look intense. What's going on?" I took a deep breath, the cool evening air filling my lungs, and tried to calm the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside me. "Mia, I'm about to do something big." Her eyebrows shot up, and she stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Big how? You're not seriously going to do something reckless, are you?" I met her gaze head on, trying to hold my ground. Reckless is exactly what Jason did to me. He wrecked my life, and now I'm taking it back. Mia winced at the intensity in my voice. "Clara, you've been consumed by this. I get that he hurt you, but revenge won't fix everything." I let out a bitter laugh that tasted like ashes on my tongue. "You don't understand. He needs to pay for what he did. I lost my job, my reputation, and my way of life because of him. I've spent the last year trying to rebuild myself, and I'm done standing by as he gets away with it. But at what cost? Clara, please, think about the consequences." Her words struck a chord. I knew the risks. The flash drive in my pocket held evidence that could topple Jason's career, but it also put me at risk. "I've thought about it, Mia, every single night. But Jason isn't getting a second chance. He took mine." Mia pursed her lips, her face creased with worry. "Not just playing with his life here. This is dangerous ground, and you might find yourself losing more than just a friendship." My chest clenched at the thought, but I shoved it down. "I can't let fear control me anymore. I have to do this." Mia nodded slowly, taking a step back. "Just promise me you won't lose yourself in this. You're better than that, Clara. You're not a monster." I shook my head. "I'm not a monster, but I will be if that's what it takes to end this. I refuse to be a victim." Mia's eyes pleaded with me, but I could see her resolve weakening against my determination. "All right, but let me help you. If you're really going to confront him, I want to be there. Not only for moral support, but to make sure you're safe." The warmth of her friendship washed over me, and I felt a flicker of gratitude. "I don't want you involved. This is my battle. And you're not alone, Clara. You can't do this without some help." Her voice softened. "I will always have your back." I took a moment, weighing my options. I didn't want to drag Mia into this dark place, but having her by my side felt like a lifeline. "Fine, but you have to promise to stick by my side and not talk me out of it." "Deal." As our fingers linked together in agreement, I looked back at the oak tree, its silhouette casting eerie shadows against the twilight sky. There was no turning back now. The fight was coming, and I could almost feel the weight of my choices pressing down on me like the approaching storm. "Tomorrow night, we confront him," I said, determination pulsing through my veins. Mia took a deep breath, her expression serious. "Are you sure you're ready?" "Ready or not, it has to happen," I replied, forcing a smile that I did not feel. "It's time he knows I'm not the weak person he thinks I am." As night settled, I couldn't shake the chill that danced up my spine. The air crackled around us, as if nature itself was aware of the confrontation that awaited. Thoughts raced through my mind, swirling with questions about what would happen when I came face to face with Jason. Part of me wondered if this was truly justice or merely a descent into darkness. But then I recalled the hollow laughter that had once echoed in the hallways, the betrayal that had sliced through me like glass. In that moment, I reminded myself that I was a phoenix rising from the ashes, ready to soar above the destruction he had caused. Mia reached for my hand, grounding me as we turned toward the path leading out of the park. "Let's go home for tonight. We need to prepare." I tightened my grip around her hand, drawing strength from our connection. Tomorrow would be the day everything changed, and I would face Jason with everything I had within me. The wind howled around us as if in agreement, and I felt the impending storm resonating deep in my bones. The battle was not just for revenge. It was a reclamation of my life, and I was ready to claim it back.